Chinese and English.
I speak English fluently.
I speak English and I can speak a little bit of Italian.
French and English.
I only speak English.
English.
Well, it opens you up to a lot of different texts. Like a lot of literature is not written in English, obviously, and so taking a multilingual class will allow you to read all of those kinds without having to like worry about the translated version.
I think there would be specific benefits for me, but for other people it's just easier to write in different languages.
It might hurt them in trying to be able to comprehend the same type of things in another language but in English.
I don't see much of any disadvantage, you know? It's like, it's just supposed to be a writing course and expressing yourself. How can you express yourself if you're limited like that, you know?
It would be great to have this in maybe a high school setting in earlier years because you can bring people together and they can teach each other, you can see new ways. Instead of just teaching separate languages, you can actually just mix it and you'd learn more, you'd have a better grasp on things.
Tamara Marco, I prefer to go by Tam. I'm Assistant Director of the First Year Writing Program and faculty at Emerson College. So the idea for the Translingual writing class began when John Trimber, who's the Director of First Year Writing Program here at Emerson, said, create a Translingual writing class. And so I did. But my desire to do that began when I was probably 5 years old, and I grew up on the border between San Diego, Tijuana, so California, Mexico. And I grew up in a place where almost everyone in my neighborhood spoke Spanish at home and in the streets, but we got in big trouble if we spoke it in school. And I also saw how sometimes people were ashamed of speaking Spanish, people would cry, and also sometimes immigration would come and just deport my little friends and their moms and their dads, and people would just disappear. And so I always said to myself, when I'm a teacher one day, I'm never going to tell someone they can't speak Spanish in the classroom. 30 some odd years later, here I am.
I was expecting everybody to be speaking Spanish all the time, and I thought I would be so confused because I don't speak Spanish, and so I was just afraid that I wasn't going to understand anything and I was going to fail, and everybody would just laugh at me in Spanish, so that I couldn't understand that either.
The first thing I would say is that they totally have to take the class regardless of whether they can speak another language or not, because that's really not the point of the class. And the point is inclusion, diversity, and finding out who you are through your writing. And I think Tam does that in a way that will completely change your perspective in anything, because I've never felt freer writing in like an academic setting.
I think that working translingually dramatically changes student interaction, particularly because it forces students to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. So students who have their whole lives in the US English dominant language systems been forced to omit their home languages other than English, feel uncomfortable because it just doesn't feel natural. It's scary, and students cry sometimes. And then students who are monolingual and English has been their modus operandi forever feel uncomfortable because suddenly they don't understand every word they're listening to and they don't know what to do. Because they've been brought up that, you know, you participate, you understand what people are saying, and suddenly they have to find another way to understand. And I think because everyone is uncomfortable, but they've decided to do it, it creates potential for people to become less just like a class and more like a family.
I think translingualing really helped our class connect with each other and share our experiences, and it was more personal, which was nice.
Luckily, I found that it's not as hard as I thought it would be to navigate the whole translingual aspect because there's so many people who are on so many different levels.
Have no shame with each other, that we can tell each other anything and everything, and we don't care. No hay vergüenza con mis amigas.
So the Translingual class follows the same course objectives and curricular design as the first year writing program writ large. It's the same, but with a twist. People can express themselves in the language that they think the ideas need to be in.
I was expecting some kind of tutorial in Spanish for those who did not speak Spanish, or how to learn a language, how to pick up a certain way of speaking, or how to pick up a certain way of expressing yourself in another language if you could not speak another language.
Because I took a lot of Spanish in high school and I've been taking it since 6th grade, and I was like, good, I don't have to lose this language that I really love to speak, and I can maybe learn to speak it better with people who actually speak it. And so I was just like, sign me up, you know, I was really excited.
Me sentí muy aliviada porque era una oportunidad de yo poder continuar hablando en español, que eso era algo que a mí me preocupaba mucho de venir a los Estados Unidos, era hablar todo el tiempo en inglés. Y I really thought that by coming to this class I would have that space that, you know, I could call my own by speaking in Spanish and be able to continue practicing the language.
We have multiple points of view. Ideas that cannot be expressed just in English because there's no cultural equivalent. You can't just exchange one word for another because there's no cultural equivalent. So we get exposed to a lot of different ideas, places, and people. So when we have assignments, as we often do in college, write about yourself. Tell me about yourself. People can't do that if they're forced to omit their abuelos or their avós or their grandparents or where they come from. Or situations that they've lived through. If they're forced to omit all of that, how can they possibly fulfill the assignment? So I think it also makes us more accurate.
I was surprised to find out how much I didn't know about myself, and surprised to find out how much I began to learn about myself through this process, through really delving into my own cultural background, to who I was, who my family was.
If this class has taught me anything, it's to take my experiences and, you know, take what makes me different and embrace that. And, you know, like that Borderlands project, it was actually, I am not the person to, you know, ever really, you know, make a big deal about something like that, but it really changed the way that I write. Like,
you can tell from when we started out until where we are right now how much we've improved.
Oh, I just give everyone an A. No, I'm just kidding. So there are a couple very carefully thought out pedagogical strategies on how I grade writing in a language I don't understand. First of all, I don't grade thoughts in a language I don't understand. I mean, that would be preposterous. But there's so much involved in producing, writing, navigating rhetorical situations, genre awareness, that I don't need to grade every single word on the page. For example, if someone writes in Greek, they do a reflection assignment and they can explain it in English or Spanish or Portuguese, languages I'm fluent in, what they intended to do with the assignment. I can get a very good sense of what they thought were the most important ideas, what kinds of genre norms they were resisting and or embracing, and why.
I do have a lot of interest in languages that I don't speak because especially my friend is fluent in Finnish and I have another friend who's fluent in German, and I'd also just spent all summer, not all summer, but a month of summer traveling through Europe, and it was cool to hear so many different languages, and even though I couldn't understand them I really appreciated them, and I wanted to hear more of that, so I thought, oh, translingual class, that sounds cool.
One of the assignments that I often do in the translingual course is a meal. So the meal is a text. Students research a particular recipe, some sort of power relationship or ritual that accompanies the meal in some way. They research places in Boston where they would purchase ingredients for that meal. Then they do all of that, plan as a group of 9 people, so there are 4 meals across 2 classes. They plan these meals and they come to my kitchen and cook it, and then we eat it. Why do I do this? One is it's experiential learning in all of our senses. So it's a rare opportunity to engage our education with all 5 of our senses. The other thing I like about the meal is that it tends to create community in the classroom in a deep way that I haven't been able to figure out how to do in any other way. So after we've had the meal, writers in the classroom setting, back under the fluorescent lights, back into the road seating, no windows, no kitchen, just a classroom, but people treat each other with so much more trust and camaraderie because they've been through this adventure of cooking a meal. I think other colleges should have it because you learn how to navigate real-world, complex, rhetorical situations that are not just translingual, but they're transcultural. They're multicultural, different ways of seeing the world. And if you can figure out not just how to speak, but how to listen, and then how to ask questions, and how to really deeply engage with people who might have very different experiences than you do, you will go far in life in whatever your major is.
Being able to translingual and accepting others' languages and not silencing others, we feel free in the classroom, and I feel like that really helps our writing.
Every day we encounter situations where we have to be uncomfortable and we have to realize that it's not something that you can escape. And just being in that class, she makes it enjoyable and she makes it academic and she makes it free, and it's so liberating to know that there's people around you who care about where you come from and the things that really matter to you.
For as many strides that we are making toward a more translingual friendly campus or educational environment, we also still live very much in a kind of institutionalized monolingualism, which sometimes can also be monocultural.
Yo soy el rojo en mis banderas, soy la sangre dentro de mis venas. I am the sacrifices and the pain. Soy un pedacito de tierra en Mexico and the United States. I am the Statue of Liberty in Tijuana and a donkey in LA. I am Louis Armstrong listening to corridos, Ronald McDonald eating tamales, and Sofia Vergara in Modern Family hablando un inglés sin un accent. I am from San Diego and from Tijuana. Soy mexicana, chicana, latina y americana. I am my own borderland, soy mi propia frontera, el cruce que me divide y la línea que me conecta.
Soy puertorriqueña, soy latinoamericana, soy relativamente blanca. Soy demasiadas cosas apretujadas dentro de un estuche de 5 pies y 1 pulgada de altura. Quiero abarcar y ser y amar tantas cosas que a veces siento que mi corazón no da para tanto.
Thank you so much for all that you've done for this class, Tam, because it was awesome.
Thank you for this opportunity to express and to create.
I have learned so much about myself, about others, about people, about languages. It's been invaluable. It's been a trip.
Estoy bien agradecida de haber recibido esta invitación al principio del año. Thank you for being so understanding and for helping us out throughout all these projects.
It has been a wonderful year together. Thank you.
And thank you so much for bringing us all together. You really made us just one big happy family, and we can never thank you enough for that.
It's just really nice to feel at home in a class.
You know, I didn't realize what we were doing was like such a cornerstone and like in academics. Like I had no idea what I was getting into, and it was an amazing experience, and I cannot say thank you enough for the amount of dedication that you've shown me and my classmates, and you know, the maintenance workers. Like the passion you put into everything you do it's beautiful.
I would really like to warmly thank the last 3 years of students who have been willing to sign up, apply for this translingual writing course, stick with it for an entire year, and then maintain relationships with me and with each other as writers, as colleagues and friends. It has created a long-term writing community that I have never quite seen before. And I'm grateful to Emerson College for being one of the only campuses in the entire United States that has an official bilingual designation on the transcript for each student in the translingual writing class, and allows the translingual writing class to happen in the first place.
Déjame vivir libre, libre como el aire. Me enseñaste a volar y ahora me cortas las alas. Y volver a ser yo mismo, que tú vuelvas a ser tú. Libre, libre como el aire.